And so with over 10,000 homes, that means over 10,000 animals too. So I'm surprised and grateful for the love that everyone gave everybody.
How about out there? Anybody? What surprised you this week? Any takers? Couple takers out there. Very good. Thank you, Laura.
Mine is a very little surprise. I have 3 cats and a dog, and 2 of the cats are always in my room and with me, follow me everywhere. They're all 3 cats are indoor-outdoor cats. But one of the cats has always been very shy. I've had her for probably 12 years, but she stays away from everything, and she kind of hides in the laundry room, and she's not social, she's afraid, and but just yesterday, she jumped up on my lap while I was watching TV and stayed there for an hour. That
Beautiful.
was a big surprise to me.
Beautiful. Anyway, Mark had a surprise.
As a lot of you know, that I've been going through chemotherapy and immunotherapy for about 17 years now. And immunotherapy for the last year. And my oncologist told me last Wednesday that my tumor is shrinking.
Fabulous.
So that would surprise me.
That's a nice surprise. Was there a hand up here? Anybody have a hand? Did you want to? Please. Laura, up here in the front row.
This week on Wednesday at my gymnastics gym, I got my back hip circle for my first time on bar.
Right on. Right on. Oh, the days. Any other? Dave.
The other night I forget what night it was, I was coming home about 9:30 on Gopher Canyon. As you all know, it's a 2-lane road. All of a sudden, right in front of me, I'll bet you 50 or 60 feet, I see a set of headlights coming right at me. I was doing about 50. And I thought, well, Reverend Guy, I may come and see you for some services in a few weeks. I didn't quite think that quickly, no. But I don't know how the guy did. Whoever it was came in front of me and swerved back in the lane they came from. And it was a rather unsettling experience, and I have no idea why I'm still here. I just don't, but I'm thankful for it, that's all.
We're thankful. We're thankful. It's just more fun with you here with us, Dave. Anyone else? James, over here in the front row, too.
For Christmas, every year I wished for a Nintendo, and this year it surprised me because I got one.
I love that. He got a Nintendo for Christmas. He's been asking for it for years, and he got it. Anyone else? So I will share my surprise. So it was yesterday. We went to a rose pruning class at Armstrong, and first of all, I was surprised at how aggressive you can be in trimming roses and how they love it. They love it, because I'm always thinking, because I know that plants have feelings, but like roses, they're kind of like me. They like to be kind of like knocked around a little bit and chopped and cut my hair and all that. They like a haircut. So anyway, that surprised me. With that, okay, save us.
Your opening prayer was exactly what I was going to bless the world with. So thank you for that. I'll move right into, do you know the people sitting next to you right now? Let's give them some love. Good morning. All right. I'm going to move right into the quote this morning. It's by Ernest Holmes. Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we will feel that it has abandoned us. Embracing it is the only answer. Through the power of love, we can let go of past history and begin again. Love heals, forgives, and makes us whole. And now we're going to move into a 3-minute contemplation. Let's put 2 feet on the floor, grounding ourselves. With everything that's going on, let's take 3 deep breaths, with the inhale being God is and the exhale I am. Here we go. God is. I am. God is. I am. God is. I am. Together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
Check 1, 2. I think the microphone's on now, so.
It is.
were born before the wind, oh, so younger than the sun. That bonny boat was warm as we sailed to the mystic. Hark now, hear the sailors cry. Touch the sea, feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly as we sail to the mystic. When that foghorn blows, you know I'll be coming home, yeah. And when that foghorn blows, I wanna feel it. I don't have to fear it now. I wanna rock your gypsy soul way back to the years of old. Magnificently we will flow into the mystic. When that foghorn blows, you know I'll be coming home, yeah. When that foghorn blows, I wanna feel it. I don't have to feel it now. I wanna rock your soul way back to the days of old. Magnificently we will flow into mystic. Yeah. Too late to stop now.
Thank you, Paul. So, who remembers who originally did that song? Van Morrison. Right, Van Morrison. So, do you remember where you were when you first heard it? I remember when, the period, kind of like he also did Moon Dance. Remember Moon Dance? God, I love that. That would. Do you know Moon Dance?
Oh, no, I don't know. I'm sorry.
It'd be perfect for this weekend because there's a big full moon tomorrow, but another time. But thank you, Paul. I love that song. Let me get my notes up here. So what we're talking about this month, actually this whole year, but we're just kind of playing around with it this month, is this idea of what does it mean to live a life that matters? What does it mean to live a life that matters? And last week I quoted an author who I like a lot. His name is Aaron Simmons, and he has a YouTube channel, but I know him from Beer Camp. But he asked the question, what is worthy of your finitude? What is worthy of your finitude? With the understanding that our life has a beginning and an end in this body. And what do we invest in? What's worthy of this life for ourselves to give in this? And I kind of want to play with it today with this idea of surprise. And, you know, my perception of the universe is there's a pretty strong level of randomness to everything. And to me, that demonstrates how the very cosmos itself is becoming conscious and aware, how it learns. Evolution is the demonstration of learning, right? Of a response to something. And so, you know, even all the crazy stuff that's going on this morning in this room, it reminds me that a great virtue, something that is worth my finitude, something that incorporates my life to matter, is to remain agile, to remain open to surprise. Because there's a little danger when we don't. You know, you have heard me say often that that something that Paul Tillich says is that, you know, the opposite of faith is not doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. And certainty, certainty is, I'm not, let me just speak personally. If someone lives a life of certainty, I'm a little nervous to be around them. And I understand the benefit of certainty because, we use certainty so that we can go to bed and sleep at night. But the challenge of certainty is this, is that when we live a life of certainty, we don't really grow. We don't learn. We kind of remain stuck in a level of complacency. Because when we live a life of certainty, in many ways we inoculate ourselves against novelty, against agility. We protect ourselves against risk. Something that Aaron Simmons says again is he says faith is risk with a direction. It's an important part, but probably the most crucial thing that we inoculate ourselves against when we live a life of certainty. And isn't that interesting that a minister on a Sunday morning would be in a congregation and say, don't be certain. Be open, be curious, not judgmental, as Ted Lasso or Walt Whitman would say. But the thing about if we live a life of certainty, we in many ways numb or atrophy our capacity to imagine. Because I think certainty blocks the imagination. Because, there's this wonderful part of the Kabbalah, which is an ancient Jewish book of mysticism that talks about Ein Sof. In the Tree of Life, Ein Sof is that which is. And I think I've talked about this times before. There is no word for God in Kabbalah, because to name something, the nice thing about naming something is you've entered into a relationship with it, but you've also limited it. And so Ein Sof simply means that which is. That is. I am that I am becoming. But, if Ein Sof, according to Kabbalah, if Ein Sof is the source and the expression of all that is, then how does creation happen? And it happens through the imagination. Ein Sof imagines. And if we are agents made in the image and the imagination of the divine, how do we create? We create through our imagination. And if we are somewhat certain of things, then perhaps our capacity to imagine the possible is somewhat limited. So I've been playing with this idea because traditionally, in New Thought centers, particularly Science of Mind, which is the denomination that I come from, that our community is part of, is January is often the traditional month that we go through what's called Back to the Basics. And it comes from the introduction into the Science of Mind text. And, it's to deal with the 4 questions. The thing itself, where it went, no. What it costs, why not? No, so it's the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it, which is good, and so I was thinking, being a good New Thought minister, I should talk on those things. So I went through the Science Mind text this week, and I was looking through that, as I should, and I thought to myself, in my imagination, I would love to have lunch with Ernest Holmes. Because what I know and what I respect and love about Ernest Holmes is, now, he wrote the Science of Mind text when he was, I think, barely 30. And his later writings are very different from his earlier writings, which means that one of the things that I admire about him is his willingness to learn and grow, and also, toward the end of his life, how uncertain he became about certain things. There's certain things that he wasn't prepared to deal with that he thought he was. He was certain about certain things, and then the organization that he founded went through a schism. He was certain about the love of his wife Hazel, and then she died. He was certain that thoughts create health and wealth and benefits, and then he had a stroke. And he was very different toward the end of his life than who he was at the very beginning. Equally as profound and inspiring, no doubt, but growing. There's something, I have thought about this. Probably the 3 most influential people in the history of thought and world and evolution, Socrates, the Buddha, and Jesus, never wrote a word. They never wrote a book. People wrote about them, but they didn't write a thing. But what happens is that frees us in this imagination to kind of be with them. And there was this line that I used to live by in the Science of Mind text many years ago. And it's this. It says, conditions aren't entities, we are entities. And I'm not so sure anymore. I'm sure that I'm an entity, I'm sure that you're an entity, but I'm not sure that conditions don't take on, in the occult world, it's called a grimoire. There's an energy about it. Even if you think in terms of when someone passes, there is the presence of an absence. And I guess what I'm saying here is, it is way more nuanced to simply say it is this or it is that, and leave it at that. Because I think in many ways, we're kind of called, and if I think of, the great prophets and all, we're kind of called into the wilderness. Because again, the danger of certainty is complacency. And, Carl Jung says this. He says that the worst sin, we don't use the word sin, I just went out. That's okay, because I'm still here. The worst sin, and sin is a word that I'm not a big fan of, but, we all make mistakes, there are errors, so, the original word for sin is literally an archery term, which means missing the mark, sine, in Greek, but we'll give it back to Carl Jung, who says that the worst sin is lack of awareness or unconsciousness. Because when we are unaware of what is happening within us or oblivious to what's going around us, we are very likely to stumble in the dark instead of walking in the light. We're prone to confusion. And this is as true for us as individuals as it is collectively. And I think we kind of experience, I know I experienced that personally in my life. If I am unaware of something, then I kind of sometimes lose it. And again, we kind of fall back on this level of complacency on this. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, I know, he's about ready to start talking about Emmanuel Levinas, who said, "It is only the other that can surprise us." Sit with that for a minute. It is only the other that can surprise us. To me, and again, going back to Aaron Simmons, he kind of defines it this way. He says, when we stay, he kind of explains that situation, it's only the other that surprises us. He says, when we stay enmeshed in the familiar, we do not open ourselves to the interruption of the unexpected. And I love that. I mean, didn't we just have that experience at the beginning of service? An interruption of the expected? It's supposed to start now. It's supposed to do this. And it didn't happen. The internet's supposed to work. All these things, and yet, can we be open to the interruption of the unexpected? Which, of course, brings us to this idea that I was talking about last week, Maurice Sendeck's Where the Wild Things Are. I don't know if you guys have read that book. Give yourself the opportunity. You could probably find it online. I think the amount of words in the entire book is probably less than a paragraph. The artwork is delightful, and it's like my second favorite opening line in a book where it says, the night that, what was his name? Max puts on his wolf suit and makes mischief of one thing or another. His mother says to him, "You are a wild thing." And he says to her, "I'm going to eat you up." And she says, "You go to your room without dinner." And then he enters into this amazing, imaginative world. And he goes to the place where the wild things are. And I think that the other often is the wild place, the wilderness. And again, if you read the poetry and the legends of great spiritual teachers, at some point in their spiritual development, they go to the wild places. They go to the wilderness. They go to the place of the other, because that's where it is. And it offers us something there. And if anything else, what it offers us is it offers us an opportunity of self-examination. Because according to Levinas, he says this. He talks about how that that for the most part, most of us live our lives operating under the assumptions that things are the way they are. We kind of like the consistency or the certainty of where things are. But what happens in that is what he says is, in the context of disruption, we kind of long for a return to the normal. Well, I wrote a normal to myself here. Yeah. And something that I'm noticing too is one way of coping, and I hear this more and more and more, is we keep moving the goalpost on normal. Because have you heard the word, the new normal? Things the way they are, and now they're not, and so this is the new normal. This is the new normal. And it's a defense against being disrupted or being in the uncomfortableness of the other or the wild place. Because I think, if I can offer this as a thought, is I wrote notes here, so I'm going to kind of depend on my notes on this a little bit. Because when we're confronted with to me, what I experience is, for myself personally, and maybe you have, but I also see it collectively, is that when we're confronted with a different voice and perspective of our own, we want to retreat to the comfortable. We confine ourselves to maybe the echo chamber of those who reinforce the beliefs that we have. Or literally, when the others show up in our world, especially if our world seems somewhat stable, we become suspicious of them and kind of see them as the enemy. I mean, we see that collectively with what's going on, anybody that's another. And we had this experience in our neighborhood. We had a block party on New Year's Eve. And what was really cool about that for myself, it was a real disruption on some of the assumptions of some of the people that live in our neighborhood. And Andrea and I talk sometimes, we refer to each other as Mr. and Mrs. Kravitz as we're looking at the windows making judgments on our neighbors. Not really that much, but it's kind of like, look what they're doing today, But I know that they do it about us as well, because we're those neighbors with the really loud dog. And we're those neighbors that, do this, that, or the other thing, and where these things are. So we fall back on these things, on these levels of complacency. What it is, I believe, is we see the other as a threat. And the narrative that we have is that we try to protect ourselves, because the bottom line is, we see the other as the obstacle. And what if we didn't? So you're probably thinking right now about that movie, Into the Wild. Remember that years ago? Do you guys know the movie Into the Wild? Do you guys know the soundtrack from it, Eddie Vedder? Oh, the movie Into the Wild. It's actually based on a true story of a young man. I can't remember what his name was. But this young man who graduates from college, and he decides he's had it with society and all that it stands for and all that it is. And he's going to go into the wild. And so he makes his way across the United States, and then he hitchhikes up, or he gets somehow or another into Alaska. And he decides he's going to go live in the wilderness of Alaska, totally unprepared. Winter comes, he's trapped, and he dies. End of story. So, but it speaks about something, that even though we are called to the wild places, it doesn't mean that we should go into the wild places unprepared. And perhaps you're thinking right now, it's like, well, wait, that sounds, it sounds like an oxymoron. I'm supposed to go into the wilderness, and yet I'm not supposed to be prepared. No, I think we do stay prepared. If anything else, it's something like David Foster Wallace says, simple awareness. So as we're living a life that matters, or attempting to live a life that matters, and opening ourselves to this idea of surprise and amazement and wonder, which we should be doing, and as Abraham Heschel says, if we are not surprised every day, we should really think about that. We should think about what defenses are up if we don't allow ourselves to be surprised by the most simple of things there is. So, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be prepared for that. And so I think when David Foster Wallace is talking about that simple awareness, I think what he's talking about there is the awareness to live our life with the awareness that things may not be as they seem. Things may not be as they seem. They may be different. I used to have this affirmation, I still use it from time to time because it's a good one, is whatever is going on, I ask myself the question, how good can this get? Yeah, try it. This is a try it. How good could this get? See where that thought takes you. Think where your imagination would go to that. The other thing that I would say is the awareness that things don't have to be the way they are. Because certainty says this is the way it is. The wilderness says it may not be the way that you think it is. And so to go into any situation with that, this may not be what I think it is, and what is going on doesn't mean this is the way that it has to happen. And that different voices and views are invitations to rethink our own. Surprise, I say, I'm reading my notes, I say, surprise is possible only if we don't assume that we have everything already figured out. Surprise is possible only if we assume with that simple awareness that we don't have everything figured out. One of the great metaphors in most of the spiritual stories is this idea of a journey, a quest, a pilgrimage, or whatever it is. And although the final trick is done by us as an individual, we do it collectively. We love each other. We support each other in the way that we do it because it's just more fun when we're all together. And that brings me to this idea of Ernest Holmes, because I love him. And one of the things that he says in the Science of Mind text, and I will offer to you as a tool, is this. He says, for those of you who have always dwelt on the limited thoughts, a very good practice is to dwell upon the magnitude of the universe. And what I would offer is that's the spiritual practice, to dwell on the magnitude of the universe. I was thinking that this morning because, I have a ritual on Sunday mornings where I get up at about 4 a.m. and it's really cold. And I go sit in the hot tub where it's deliciously warm. And I look at the stars. And, Temecula has a lot of light pollution, so there's it's not like the starry world. It's not like, Mount Wilson or, Kauai. But I can see the stars, and I can see some of the stars, and I can see some of the planets. But today, I saw the moon. Just this gorgeous moon. And if you allow yourself to be in amazement and wonder, but whatever it is wherever our vision is limited, is to open ourselves to expand it in the magnitude of things are. If quantum physics is teaching us anything, it is something that was spoken in the Upanishads and in the Kabbalah and in the ancient Hebrew poetry and in the annals of Buddhism and everyone else, which is this, is that everything is interconnected to everything else. In the occult schools, which is part of my spiritual heritage, we talk about the elementals, earth, air, fire, and water. Those are just simply new names for solids and gases and energy and liquids. They're just names, but there's energy behind them. So, conditions may not be entities, but they have energy because they speak to us. Conditions are prophets. They are teachers. If we are open to what is going on, the vastness of this universe is always, always speaking to us. And one of the things, to me, that is loud and clear is I am not alone. I am seen, I am known, and I am loved by Ein Sof, that which is. Stay surprised, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Reb. That's yeah. Be agile. That's like everything. So.
We Gotta let it breathe. Let it breathe. What we see, you and me. Breathe. Gotta let it breathe. Just breathe. There was a time when I hoped gotta let it breathe. You and me. Oh, gotta let it breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe.
I haven't had a chance to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. And in this new year, I've noticed, I drive all night all over Southern California, and I can feel the energy in the people that I chat with, and I can see the energy in the towns that I drive through of the givingness. In this natural disaster, it is claimed a federal. So we have the federal and the state and the local, and they have our hearts and minds, sending them love and joy and peace of mind. And so as we give, we always receive, in the knowing that we are part of this world, and everyone is our brother and sister. Everyone is our brother and sister. And so as we give, that energy is a domino effect and ripples out into the world. And so let's take our tithing and hold it to our hearts. And know that our love, our joy, our givingness is noticed, and we gratefully receive in this community our gifts of time, talent, tithing. And as we give, we know that this energy opens the door. Our gratefulness opens the door to more love, more opportunities, more abundance. And now with our higher consciousness moving into this new year, knowing that this door stays open. This door stays open, allowing the good, allowing the abundance, allowing perfect health to permeate our lives. And now I release this prayer into the universal mind, knowing that it is already so, Together we say, and so it is.
Thank you. So this morning, I got an email from our dear sister Liz, who can't be with us this morning, and she has a friend who lives in Topanga Canyon and is helping coordinate get supplies, which are badly needed to both those who are responding on the lines of the fires and also those who are in the condition of losing their homes or being displaced. And so there's a large list. It's way too extensive for me to read out here. But what we'll do, and I'm looking to Andrea now, is we'll send out an email blast that will have this list. And also next week we will post it here, and we will start operating as a sort of a clearinghouse to get these things and support Liz. She has a way, I think, of getting them up to the people that need them most. So check your email tomorrow. Is that too soon, or Tuesday? Tuesday. Yeah. Check your emails Tuesday. We'll have an email blast out that will have this list, and if you can start bringing them to the center, we'll collect them and we'll make sure that they get up there. And with that, I want to, first of all, Lisa, thank you for stepping up. I love that. I'm really good at this, and I love that, helping us with the board. You know, here's a happy disruption, and thank you for helping. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Steve, for always being there and stalwart. And now we're up and we're broadcasting, so thank you. You always make us sound good. I saw you. Let's see. I saw you. I saw Chris as one of the greeters. Who else was greeting with you this morning? All right, Betty, thank you. That's right. I was talking with you up there this morning. And
Betty has committed to be a greeter on the second Sunday of every month.
forever. Wow. That's cool. Let's see. Paul, thank you for just stepping up in a moment's notice. That was very good. I forgot to mention Jim's class because there was a lot of things going on, but his class is on at 9 o'clock in the morning on Sundays, and he's always here. And if you are drinking coffee this morning, Jim made that. If you were sitting at the table eating the fabulous food that Ann and Deanna and Kurt and Mike, probably you too, have prepared, Jim set the tables up this morning. So thank you for that. Laura, it's always a pleasure to have you on the platform. And everyone and anyone else, if I've forgotten, and Noreen and Sherry, who are always in the gift store, check them out. Check out Luann's oils. They're really good. They smell fabulous. Go rub some on yourself before you go home tonight, or your hair or whatever. And you're collecting blankets still. Okay. So blankets, if you have blankets, they're probably going to two places. So if you have extra blankets, because everybody needs blankets. So yeah, so with all, and prayer circle, thank you. Prayer, God, prayer, yeah, welcome to church. Don't be certain about anything and forget about prayer. God, good minister you are, fabulous. So yes, so prayer. So 3 ways you can do it, 4 ways you can do it. You can go to the back of the narthex and fill out a prayer request. And the practitioners, we pray every week. And so we pray together for that. You can come up to one of the practitioners, which is Andrea, myself, or Paul, and Laura, and ask for prayer, and one of us will pray with you. You can fill out a prayer request. I said that. You can do that. Or you can, I'm going to get to that. And you can go to the prayer circle, which is going to be about 5 or 10 minutes after service. So, and then don't forget, there's a board meeting about a half hour after service. If I forgot anything, I'm asking for grace because there was a little disruptive this morning. How grateful I am. How grateful I am to be in a community such as this, in a world such as this, in a life such as this, with all that there is, knowing at the end of the day, each and every one of us are known and seen and loved by the very thing that has called all things into being. And I bless us all, knowing, as it is said, that the greatest glory to that which we call the divine presence itself is our life being lived at the fullness, and that that fullness is that which is luring us towards that. And so I give thanks. I let it be, and so it is.